Hello and welcome to another Coffee with Developers. This time I got two developers here. So today we're talking about a topic that is really close to my heart. And the problem that I have with the innovation that we have right now is that the agentic web is using the current web. And the current web was meant for humans. So basically we put content out there and we put it behind interfaces. And the interfaces are based on human logic, human psychology, and we actually made it easy for people to consume that content. Now, that content is not as easy consumable by an agent, and it feels to me that we're hacking the web. We're simulating humans with like automated browsers, clicking on things, filling out forms, and basically giving scripts and giving bots far too much power to actually play us and be like us out there. So the idea to me was always like, why don't we have something for agents to go to a website and actually get the information that they need? And there is now a proposal out there to actually help with that, and that's called WebMCP. It's currently it's a standard proposal, but it's also available in a preview right now in Chrome. That's why I got two people from Google here today to talk about that in more detail with me. First, I got Andre Cipriani Bandera. How are you doing, Andre?
Hello, I'm doing well.
He's coming from England, and we got Francois Beaufort, who worked on the product or on the extension that we're going to see later. So he's going to show us some demos of what it does. Now, my introduction, Andre, was that completely off the mark, or was this something that we're actually doing? What is MCP, and more specifically, what does WebMCP do?
Right, so MCP itself is Model Context Protocol. It's a protocol that was introduced by Anthropic, if I'm not wrong, that allows an agent to talk to tools or talk to functions in your device. So originally, the protocol can handle local functions running in your OS via piping processes locally, or it can call functions on a remote server. But it's generally either local or a server-to-server protocol. What WebMCP is, it's a complement to this protocol that allows an agent in the browser, which could be a browser agent, or it could be a browser extension that is an agent, to talk to your web page via tools that you've registered in your web page. So the API itself allows you to call functions or declaratively register functions that the agent can call.
So it feels like it's a bespoke API into your website for agents. It's not like it's not like that you have an alternative display of the content, like an RSS feed or an Atom feed. It's a different way of, it's a programmatic access to the page.
Yes, there are two options. One of them is a declarative API, which right now targets forms, for instance, which you can annotate your forms. You can add some special attributes to your forms, and that will transform the form into a tool for your agent. And there's an imperative API, which is a JavaScript API that you can just integrate. So the idea is that you can leverage the website and the pages you already have. You don't have to have a separate page for the agents to be able to use your product.
And is this a Google-only thing, or is this a larger proposal for a standard? Where did it come from?
No, this is not a Google-only thing. So Microsoft is involved, and more people in the community is involved. So the originally thing that was someone working on MCPB, and then Microsoft working on a thing, and then Google looking into something else. Then everyone realized they were trying to do a similar thing, so everyone got together to develop this proposal.
Okay, so I like the idea of just having an annotation to form fields, much like we have like autofill proposals that actually allows you to actually not have to type in your credit card, but actually get it from the browser. So the just adding a few HTML attributes to it is seems to be like a sensible thing to do. It kind of requires people to write HTML by hand, which we don't see that much, sadly enough. But it doesn't stop us from like writing components for frameworks that would actually have these attributes in there as well. Now, Francois, you're actually more close to the metal in terms of like building this thing. So what have you been working on so it actually is available in Chrome right now? How can people use this right now or try it out?
So basically, if you are using Chrome Canary with a special flag called WebMCP for testing flag, you can have access to those APIs, like the declarative and imperative APIs, which lets you, as a website developers, register tools and then basically expose your tools to the browser. Right now, should I maybe go into a simple demo. And so that was the flag I was talking about, the WebMCP testing flag. And then here's a simple website, a blank page. And if I inspect it, you will see there is not much. This website is using the imperative API, which register tool called showAnimal. And basically, when I ask this website to show me an animal, it will call this execute function, which is this one. And so how do I interact that? I've built a simple extension here. It's called the Model Context Tool Inspector, which lets me see all the tools that are registered by the website, and then I can basically just interact with the page. And if I say, hey, show me a dog, and I click here, I'm seeing this cute one. If I type, show me, I don't know, a cat, it's going to just show me this image of a cat. If I ask, what are the tools? It will tell me, hey, I can show you image of animals. Right now, it's just a dog or a cat. So it's basically just a nice way to interact and see and test if your tools are properly exposed. So that was the imperative API. This one is JavaScript, and you have this other demo. It's called Le Petit Bistro, because I'm French. And there is a special tool here that lets me basically create a confirmed dining reservation. And if I ask to book a table for 4 at Le Petit Bistro, for me, John Smith, on this date at 7:30, here's my phone number, and I prefer a main dining room table, it's basically going to call, hopefully, a function and fill all the form without me having to painfully call a JavaScript function. And that was, like we said, the magic of basically just 2 attributes, the tool name here and the tool description on the form element.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's pretty cool. Like, I would prefer, honestly, the declarative one because it will work without JavaScript. So you have the the input schema that is actually computed by the WebMCP tools comes from all the input and the text area element from the form. And if it's not precise enough, you can add those tool param description. Like, for instance, on the customer phone number, I want some min 10-digit requirements. I have this kind of stuff, which is very nice. Even for the select, for instance, here I can see like this is my preferred staging area, and here's all the options that are computed directly by Chrome. And so I don't have to basically tell him everything. It will just discover that by himself. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the tool. And so right now you have all those tools, but if you want to call them like here, I can just call the show, I don't know, turtle. And it's going to reply in JavaScript, hey, please specify door and cat, because that was the execute function telling me that.
Your extension is simulating an agent coming in. Like that's what the extension is for. So yes. For that to work, once you set the flag, you don't need to extension. That's just for you to debug your own stuff.
Yeah, the extension does 3 things. Because we know that if you're a developer, you're building this and you're annotating your form, or if you are using the imperative API, you want to know if your functions are actually being made available to an agent. So the extension allows you to see that which functions are having registered that the agent would be able to use. It allows you to manually call your function. Let's say you want to debug your function. You don't want to rely on prompting an agent to invoke the function with the right parameters because you just want to test your function, your implementation at this point. So you can just manually call the function so you can debug. And then it has a very simple LLM. It's not supposed to be a full-fledged agent, so don't believe it's not going to be as capable as a real agent. That's not the goal. But you can prompt it and then get it to call your functions, like to basically test if your function descriptions and your function shape are being understood by an LLM.
This is really nice because, as I said, it's an alternative way of serving the data only to agents out there and not actually having to point to a page. I mean, we had things like microformats in the past where we actually put classes on elements to actually say like this is an address, this is a person, this is these kind of things. Didn't take off, although we tried everything. We printed stickers and everything and got people excited about it. But like then people just wrote random diffs instead. So I think the declarative bit of just adding those things to form fields makes kind of sense to me because that actually would allow for accessing it. And it also is another thing where right now we have a problem with bots actually hammering the web and filling out forms, much like malware used to do. So in this case, you actually could provide an access for an agent to say like, hey, here's what's for you. Please don't hammer my page to death and actually don't use all the tokens that you need. Because if right now you use an agent and you scrape a website and you just parse the HTML, that means a lot of your tokens are gone, right? This is what also for end users, this is a benefit, right?
So yeah, so some agents right now have the capability of going to a page, analyzing the page, and kind of mimicking user behavior, clicking on buttons or filling input fields and stuff like that. What WebMCP does is that it streamlines that. It allows you, gives you more control and streamlines that. So instead of the agent having to do all the work to understand the page and figure out what to fill, you're basically telling you, hey, here's a function that you should be calling when the user asks for that. And that makes it faster and more reliable.
Is this part of the HTML5 spec then as well, like these attributes, or are they custom at the moment? Like, because I'm thinking about people writing code now and getting code completion. Like these attributes, of course, they're now in an experimental stage and just a proposal stage. But it would be fun if the browser explained these things to me. Like, I mean, is there an MCP that I can point to that already has all these auto completions for me?
No. Yeah, it's honestly very early days for the API. So we have just started the early preview this week because we want feedback, right? So we want developers to check the APIs out, like try it. We really want to know what use cases developers have for the API, what kind of functions they would like to register. We want to understand what kind of user prompts they would expect to invoke those functions when talking to an LLM, because we want to know if we need to change the API shape, or if we have there what we have there is enough, or if we need to change anything. And also help developers with guidance of there's one interesting thing about writing those functions, because there's some prompt engineering to it, right? If you're writing the description to your function or to your function parameters, you need to know how to write them well, so that the LLM, the AI, is going to understand what the function does and call it at the right times. And we want to understand what developers want to do, because we want to give back the best practices to them.
Now, I've seen the attributes on form fields to fill out like the petit bistro thing, and I've seen the JavaScript functionality. Can I mark up content and say like, hey, if you come around for scraping, here's the most important bit? I mean, I used now a main element in my HTML for that. First, is there something that is like in HTML possible to point out what to index first?
Nope, but that was one of the feature requests we got. Like, I would like to actually tell the browser agent which kind of prompt would be better right now. And we can't do that right now because it like Andre said, it's basically we announced that like a few days ago. So we are still looking for feedback from developers, but that would be very nice. Yeah, for sure. Something like that.
In terms of agents thinking about using that, like I suppose with Microsoft and you involved, it would be Copilot and Gemini also supporting that? Or is it just for the moment like the extension to test it out? There's no, or do you have to write an agent to actually go for WebMCP? Is there a protocol I can point to?
So right now it's only the extension. So we hope that all agents out there will eventually implement this in our browsers. So I think it's going to be a very useful API to have. Today, yes, you have to use the extension to try it out.
It's an interesting thing. It's a useful API for the end user, for the developer, but it's not a useful API for the agent providers, because they want to sell you more tokens, right? So making it easier for them would be less money coming in for their environments. It feels like back then in the days when you heard like Googlebot coming around and indexing things and doing things for you, you wanted to give them only the bit like, please don't read the rest of my page because it doesn't have to. Is there a way to block content with that as well? Because that's another big thing that people want. I don't want agents to look that part of my website, but I want people to look at it. Is there a chance to do that?
So the API doesn't have anything in terms of blocking agents of reading a website. So I think you can think about it as an optimization of an agent that's going to use a website. You, instead of allowing the agent to try and figure out by itself, you can guide it on how to use a website.
And it does it by providing the functionality, and it's up to the agent to detect the functionality, because right now trying to block or guess what's a user, what's an agent, and what's a bot is almost impossible, isn't it? Because they all disguise themselves as Chrome.
Yeah, it's up to the agent to read the list of functions registered and then execute them.
And now I signed up for the demo for the early invite right now, and Andre, I saw that you got me in. Now that form asks a lot of questions about what I want to access, like what kind of in-browser APIs I want to use as well. Is this going to be the next step, that like the prompt API and all the bits that are actually in Chrome will be usable by WebMCP as well, instead of the agent doing it themselves?
I think that is up to the developer. Whatever the function that's being called does, right? That runs in the developer context. It's a developer implementation. So if the developer wants, for instance, the function call to be handled by the prompt API, like have an LLM on their side that's handling a request from the agent, they can do that. So they can totally integrate any of those APIs. We don't have any plans for those things to happen automatically at the moment.
I mean, my big thing is video content and other multimedia content like image analysis, and I've seen demos that this is possible on device now as well. But it's something that actually is costly for me to actually analyze that. I mean, I can scrape it and then I have to do something with it. Is this something that could be an option for a content provider to say, like, I've got lots of dog images here, like here's my alternative description for the image, but here's some extra metadata that could be scraped with the WebMCP APIs? It's a bit like the extra descriptions that you had on those form fields, isn't it?
I think one thing you could do, which is not exactly WebMCP, but the prompts API could solve a lot of that for you. I think we had demos in the past for the prompts API with multimodal, where you could use it to generate descriptions for images automatically, for instance.
So, Francois, your extension, is that a side-loaded one, or is that published that I can just get from the store as well?
So this one is the one from the web store. You can clone it from the GitHub repository if you want. The source code is there so that you can have a look at all the APIs I'm using. Yeah, full disclosure for this extension, I'm using two APIs. The first one is the model context, that is WebMCP. And the other one is model context testing, which is Chrome allowing me as an extension and to list the tools available and execute them.
So it doesn't run in Edge, it just runs in Chrome itself. It's not a Chromium extension, but a Chrome extension.
It's a browser extension. Sorry, it's a Chromium extension. Like I've uploaded it to the web store because it's convenient, but people can just load it as an Impact extension and play with that. That's what I'm doing every day.
So how was feedback so far? Like how many requests did you get, and like how many people signed up for access?
Quite good feedback so far. There seems to be a lot of interest on the API, more than we really originally imagined, actually. So we're quite happy to see all the developer interest. Feedback has been quite positive. I think there's a lot of excitement around the possibilities of using WebMCP. In some cases, improving actuation. In some cases, I see developers excited that they can just reuse infrastructure they already have to provide a function to an agent instead of having a separate function to do MCP. So it's been quite good.
And you're just showing it. It's on GitHub for feedback and for contribution as well. Do you get outside contributions yet, or is it just so niche that people haven't quite tried to grasp it yet?
I think the extension is so well done that there was no pull request.
I mean, that is an interesting one. I worked on the developer tools and we never got outside contributions. And I think the problem was that if you see that it's owned by Microsoft or by Google, then people say like, first of all, I'm not good enough to contribute to it, or actually they have thousands of people that actually work on it already. I think the truth in our case at Microsoft was we had 3 people on the team. I guess you don't have much more people on that right now as well, or is there a backup of like 10 developers in case there's lots of requests coming in? How's the team so far working on that?
So the cool thing is that it's on my GitHub repository. There is no Google thing right now. It's not tied to Google. So you can just look at the code and complain about what Francois did and improve it.
It's interesting to see the feedback that I've seen so far on LinkedIn was mostly SEO people, and like product people were much more excited than developers, which I guess is hitting a mark where people are just like, what do I do to actually allow it to make it easier for agents to go out there? And I guess the token usage is one thing that you talked about as well. How much did you see in terms of like your own testing? How much usage win did you get from having a WebMCP enabled product rather than a normal one?
We haven't tested with real agents yet. I think that the thing that we're seeing compared to agents using pages is that it's much faster. Like it's a really good user experience because the agent has to do way less work to understand how to operate the page. So you get a really a big boost in performance.
So what do you want from people? I mean, this goes out to our audience in a newsletter with 200,000 people. So what do you want people to contribute? What kind of information do you want from people? Where do you see contributions coming in from the outside? And how can they contribute?
Try the API. Think about features you would like to use with it, features you would like to build with it. Give us feedback. So our goal right now is really understanding how we make sure that there is a really good market fit for these APIs.
The interesting bit is as well, this is just a flag on the current mainstream Chrome, right? This is not a nightly or a dev preview that I need to install.
It is. It's Chrome Canary. It's basically the Chrome browser that is shipping every day. So that's why I've prepared a video, because sometimes it doesn't work.
But that's what a canary is for. I mean, it comes from a coal mine, basically tell you when something's going wrong before it goes really wrong. So what is your general thinking about this? You work on a browser, you work on the web. I mean, I in the intro, I basically said, I feel very strange about this. I've been doing web development for over 30 years. 1996 was my first website. And it feels to me right now that we have like lots of agents picking and choosing from the web and trying to guess what it is rather than just having a programmatic access for a programmatic machine like that. Do you think we will get into this, or do you think we will have now a few years of like lots of bot traffic that doesn't mean anything for end users out there?
I think it's an open question, right? Like I think AI is just moving really fast. And I think it's so. But what I really see happening from the Chrome side is that there's a big concern to make sure that the platform continues to be healthy and positive to everyone involved, to users, to the platform itself, to browsers, and also to developers. Right? We really care. We really want developers to succeed when building for the web. So we know that with agents, things are changing, things are moving, but we have a really big concern to make sure that the platform remains healthy.
How's your own usage? Do you use an AI-powered browser, or do you still use the clicky and typing in things yourself?
Mostly clicky and typing. So that's what it is. I've been using agents way more for coding. That's being a thing. But for navigating the web, I think it's still mostly clicking and typing.
Yeah, I love buttons as well. So whenever I see them, I click.
Yeah, and then it turns out to be a diff with the on-click handler and not a real button, and then we have those problems again. But yeah, that's the issue as well. Like we, when I worked on Edge, we had like form fields, and I talked to the form team about that autofilling, that and the analysis of HTML that they did, because people didn't use the proper input types. They just basically read the labels around them, guessed which text is around them to say that's obviously a password field, but they didn't use the input type password. That there seems to be a lot of things that browsers have to do just to make the web work right now. And now we have to worry about the agentic web doing the same thing as well. So do you think there might be a chance that we're getting better in like semantic writing for the web or publishing for the web because of these agents, because it's too expensive to just analyze div soup.
Yeah, I believe so. I think developers will eventually want to optimize their pages for agents. In one side, I think that it should be the agent's job to make sure he understands the page, as in the same way that it should be a crawler job to make sure he understands and it indexes the page properly. But I think on the other hand, there is going to be a desire from developers to say, well, I want to make sure that my thing is really well understood. Like SEO is what happens for crawlers. I think people want to optimize their pages for agents to be understood by agents. And my guess is that the more standard your page is, the more well-written your page is, the easier it's going to be for an agent to really make sense of it.
And one thing that is nice as well is that, like as a user, if you type something into an input and it's not valid, you have to figure out what went wrong. Here, the agent can try again until the validation says successful. So that's a win as a user. You don't have to fight against the website that was not built properly or did not advertise things correctly for you. So that's, I would say, one good side of things.
Yeah, it's one of the things that Francois and I found out when experimenting with WebMCP and the API is if you have your custom function and you have really good validation and in return really good errors when the LLM invokes your function with the wrong parameters, if you have really good error messages, the LLM can autocorrect itself.
Yeah.
So if you explain what it's wrong, it's going to try again with the right parameters. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a bit like the input type pattern when you actually could analyze the regex that's in there kind of thing. If people wrote a proper one, that's a really good thing. I also read that like auto-completion and like code assistance get people more involved into typed languages than non-typed languages because they're more predictable. So I found that very interesting that we having to tell people that TypeScript is actually scaling better than JavaScript, and they're like, I don't like types, I don't want to write Java. But now when it gets generated for you, it's less of an issue, it seems. Now the protocol itself, the WebMCP protocol, that's a non-Google thing. That's a W3C thing, isn't it? A proposal? Can you put that up quickly and talk us through how we can actually learn more about that one?
So here's the early proposal. So it's a draft community group report from the W3C community group. So we've started to actually add the imperative version of the API. Here, that's the model context I was talking about before. And then that's the register tool function you can call with a tool, description, name, input schema, execute function, everything. So that's very early days, like we said, plenty of to-dos out of that. And yeah, name, description, input schema, execute, annotation. That should be very similar to people who know MCP, because that's basically almost the same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that you go for the declarative approach. I mean, Chrome just also released a geolocation element, which I found an interesting thing as well. Like basically, it's not a web API. It's a bespoke API, and you pay money for it if you're not a provider of a browser. So it's interesting that these things come in there. Like, and I love it to bits because it always drove me nuts when there is an HTML equivalent and people just write a JavaScript solution instead. And just by having this like very simple in the HTML, it also allows other tools to actually access it. It's an interesting thing that there is this cool ecosystem nowadays, isn't it? Like we always had like, okay, web developers that build websites, but now the group of like people building editors in the browser is becoming so big. It's like there's so many tools out there and so many forks of Visual Studio Code with all security settings turned off so that it can do agentic things on your command line. It's a fascinating world to be in, but I love that you took that on. Like, are you the main people in Google to do that, or is there other people that stateside people can talk to as well? How can we talk to you? What's the easiest way to get involved in this?
I think the easiest way to get involved, if you want to get involved into the spec side, it's on GitHub. It's W3C. Anyone can participate, right? If you want to give us feedback, you can do via the APP, and then Francois and I will be there handling all the feedback, or reach out to us.
Yeah,
cool.
I'd say the GitHub issue as well of this WebMCP repository is very nice because people will also be able to contribute and see what you think. And just to be clear, we are not the WebMCP author. We are just Google folks who love the WebMCP API, and we are here to talk about it. And the Chrome WebMCP team, like plenty of engineers working on it, they are working as hell right now just to make sure people can get a nice experience when they try it.
The idea is that we want to gather feedback. So that's why we're asking people to sign up. So it gives us, you get into a mailing list where you can just give feedback through the mailing list. So that's the idea there.
Well, thanks very much. This was great. Andre and Francois from Google. We all now in the afternoon where we're basically going home in the UK, in Germany, and in France. Francois probably is already ready to go out there. And yeah, thanks very much again. Any last words for our audience out there?
Thank you for having us in the first place. And then join the APP, try it out, give us feedback. Let's make this API even better.
Thanks very much. That was Coffee with Developers about WebMCP things. If you're an agent, just tell us that you're an agent first. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.